listening to people, it's not always a good thing. People have some stuff not because they really deserve it. The game of life is pretty weird, really weird. So listen to yourself. If you're seeing this, you have no idea how many times I tried to record this and it just went flip-flop. But why am I a failure to launch at 21 years old? Because 2 years ago, I had a really profound experience on psychedelics that brought out the inner anger in me. And another reason why I've been trying to record this video for like X amount of tries is because it's so convoluted. I have so much lore, I feel like, to the average person. But we're just gonna park right here. I'm just gonna talk for a little bit. The inner anger in me, it was so overwhelming that I just ignored it. It's obviously like, childhood trauma and stuff like that. I had no idea that I was like that person for the longest time until it came to that. And after that, I just stopped taking care of myself. I started neglecting a lot of stuff, like in my surrounding. I started neglecting my health, really. Like I still exercised, but like it was just social media exercise. It wasn't like if you go to a it was scrolling exercise. It wasn't like you go to an Instagram account or a YouTube channel and then you watch a video on how to do a very specific exercise and you go and replicate it for yourself. It was you scroll, you see some dude, a buff ass dude with like a pretty ass girl hitting the gym. And then followed by like some TikTok music, some like upbeat music. The caption would read like, if you don't bench press like 100 or 200 pounds, then what are you doing with your life, bro? Something like that. It was just like that. You see that, and then you're like, oh my god, what am I doing in my life? He's right. And just go and exercise. But when that sense of awareness and adrenaline wears off, you're just like, what am I doing here? What am I doing at the gym? I should just go home. Which is exactly what I did. Now, thank God I never paid for a gym membership, because it was the biggest scam ever if I did. But I still went to the gym. I did cardio. I didn't eat healthy. I didn't take care of my mentality. I was smoking. You know, I was smoking both things that it's very common, you know. The brown stuff and the green stuff. I'm not sure how the algorithm will handle my first video, so I'm gonna be careful what I say. I mean, this is not my first video, but like the first video of me talking. Yeah, so I was just smoking a lot, and I was having more profound experiences, but it was induced through I'm gonna have to say it, but like it's through mushrooms. Obviously, you know what kind of mushroom they are. So it's getting uncomfortable just talking about it. It's really getting uncomfortable. I just became an angry person, and excuse me. That was overshadowing everything, you know. Because of my anger, I saw the truth in a lot of things. Because I was holding up a facade for my family, for my parents. Because, long story short, my parents did not raise me that well. I don't really blame them, because themselves were not raised that well neither. But you know, like, kind of forgot the point once again. Like, I just started like blaming my parents more, self-isolating, you know. With the car I had at the time, I was driving a lot, you know, zooming around in it a lot. With just like a lot of insecurities. I'm gonna make this point kind of short. But I went insane, or like I went through a minor psychosis for a little bit because of the mushrooms. Because the mushrooms, it literally told me, like, at one point I had the voice in my head telling me, yo bro, stop doing this shit to yourself, bro. Like, you can make 10K, or you can get buffed, or you can have your dream life, or you can, like, you know, go study engineering, go study art, all you want, independent of each other, independent of everything. Like, basically this voice tells me like I can do anything independent of each other. I don't have to go like, okay, only if I had a house, then therefore I'm able to sleep. I don't have to go like that. But I just refuse to listen to that voice. I quit social media right now. I mean, I'm actually still on social media. I have a social media page by this same exact name. Actually, I just post photos that I find interesting. I try to do it in like this aesthetic kind of way. That's another story, but like I'm trying to keep this kind of short, to the point, so I can upload it without cutting anything necessarily. Because my first step, admitting and explaining to hopefully people that care or people that would just listen, why right now I'm the way I am. So yeah, it was just like this lack of self-trust, the lack of just mental coherency. Yeah, it was just a lot of weed smoking. It just didn't help that much. Like I came to realize that the Zad is not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be definitely abused as a form of escapism. And that was exactly what I did, because the voice in my head was way too scary to just put it like very frankly. The voice in my head was just too scary to deal with. Yeah, like I just turned into a scaredy mouse. I was just running away from a lot of stuff, getting more insecure. And then came the summertime when I had a chance to go upstate. Well, actually, a bit of context. I live in New York. I live in Long Island, actually. And Long Island is downstate. It's where the city is located, where the five boroughs is where like everything's going on. It's where you can just get mugged while living next to a billionaire. Crazy shit like that, you know. Yeah, no, upstate they got mountains. Specifically the world famous Appalachian Mountains. So I would drive up there earlier in February of 2024. I would just drive, not this car, but like I would just drive up there and just climb mountains, hike, or just drive around town, actually, because I've never been upstate except for like a handful of times when my dad worked in uh, Albany. But there's a lot of personal stuff I gotta filter out, especially for like this first video. Like I don't want to go off the deep end. for too long or too much. Upstate was peaceful, but I just went up there as escapism, just like the other stuff I talked about. And at that point, I got more intermingled with my friends, which was a good thing. It taught me about community, but my friends, they were like me. We were just all liars to ourselves. We were just prisoners of our own mind, really, and none of us helped each other because we didn't know how to. And the hard truth is, you just gotta do it alone. Gotta do it alone. Like me, I'm sitting in a car alone. And I'm pretty much facing a lot of stuff in life alone right now. So, upstate, the car. My dad used to work in Albany. I didn't go upstate that long or that many times. So I went upstate to hike. And yeah. So about there. I would just cover each of my friends that I brought with me. You know, I had some money at the time, so I would just like going. I don't want to say that I was necessarily being a cuck to my friends, but I was being like too generous, overtly generous to my friends in a way that I really shouldn't have, because when this is just basic psychology, really. So I come to learn the hard way from myself, really. The more you spoil someone, for the better, the more they're gonna resent you. So, once again, with these filler words and with me fidgeting, just pretty embarrassing story to tell, especially knowing that this video is gonna be uncut and sent to the internet. It was just a while like that, like going upstate and doing stupid shit. Like I was just smoking a ton up there, having more induced experiences up there, and just fast forward to the last point where I veered off. I went to upstate in September with a few of my friends. Not gonna name names. I paid for everything. All was fine. They invited me to a party. I done something in that party, which I'll talk about in the future. But that little bit of a thing, it wasn't anything sexual. It wasn't anything like too secret. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything too hidden. In fact, it's a common thing, like rich people, elites, world leaders, homeless folks, average 9 to 5 Jane and Joe, they do it. It's one of those things. I'm not talking about smoking the green stuff or smoking. Well, I'll talk about it later. But that changed my outlook on my life so much, forever. I was just being like a total recluse to life. Everything was physical, you know. I did not believe in the divine. I did not believe that, if you say one thing and, you really mean it, neither consciously or subconsciously, then it will become true. I did not believe that because I just believed my parents. I remember this. My dad told me one time when I was young, like I was watching a scary movie. We were watching a scary movie, right? About it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant about what it's about. But he told me that, hey, don't get scared. God will protect you. God watches over us. He said in Chinese, but I just remember like, oh wow, so that explained it, right? Like, if I don't die tonight because of some zombie or something, then that's because of God. And I didn't die. So I started believing in him, looking up at him as a role model. And do smoke cigarettes. Oh my God, excuse me. Do smoke cigarettes. I remember the first time I tried a cigarette was on the toilet, and I was so excited. I'm like, is this really that addictive? I didn't think like that, because like I'll talk about it later, like the previous thing in a later video, but like it was like my mind was shut off for most of my life up until like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And that story, when I tried the cigarette on the toilet, was I'm talking about when I was like 11, 12 years old. So that was a while ago. So that I just sat on the toilet, and I didn't know how to smoke at the time. Like, God bless me. But I just put it in my mouth and I puffed on it. I'm just like, who the hell likes this thing? Who the hell is gonna like to smoke this thing? Who the hell likes smoking this thing? And I just crumpled it and I threw it in the toilet. And I flushed it. I just got rid of it. The next thing I know, I'm gonna cut again. But come back to story now. That story it's contradiction. It's contradiction of how I look up to my dad, because he just said that one thing that makes me, believe in him, but he just doing this other thing that makes me question his taste. But then again, I was young at the time. So fast forwarding to present day again. Because I never stopped listening to my parents, even though I rebelled against them. Like I'm slowly losing the point because it's just a convoluted topic that I want to go down. But I just listened to my parents. They said everything was this, so in my mind everything was just gonna be that. It was just gonna be like okay. It was gonna be like okayed, you know. I'm taking a lot of pauses to leave out a lot of personal details for this one specific video, just because I don't want to just like go on a rant, and because I'm dehydrated and I'm like just not really in the best state right now. I don't want to sound too gibberish. But like this, I am already aware that the story that I'm telling is broken down into bits and pieces. But if you're still following along, my friends and I did this thing at this party after we went upstate, and it challenged my perception. Growing up like that, like what I said, just I've been holding a view of my parents' perception, and that shattered it like that. And next thing I know, I just stopped going to school completely. Right? Like I should have stopped going to begin with. Like that was a huge story of its own. I would tell it one day, but just not right now in this current condition. But that screwed me up real bad. That change in perception, it screwed me up real bad. Not because it was just bad or anything, but because I didn't know how to handle it. So like I'm just gonna cut to the final point here, which is I never had a complete childhood to begin with. My childhood was always it was controlled in a sense. I tried to follow the social norm, but I know I'm a weird ass kid. I'm not gonna go to details in this video, but I was a weird ass kid. And I knew at some point, like 2 years ago, about the same time that I had those realizations, that I had those happenings. 2024 was a year ago, but within the span of these 2 years, that I was neither gonna go to jail, which I haven't been to jail before, but I've been to detention centers before. That's another story. It wasn't anything. It was so stupid in a sense. But okay, I'm getting sidetracked again right now. But it was neither I go to jail or I become successful at something. And that had never been more true after that experience. And it just made me reflect on my childhood. And going back to the point where I never had like a complete childhood, where I had a restricted childhood, it was just filled with boundaries. Like, you know, I'm gonna again make videos on it, talking about it more in the future. Just right now, I want to explain the whole point in general. But yeah, reflecting back on my childhood, I never had a complete childhood. I was never allowed to do certain things. I never really had a group of friends to click with until I was in 8th grade. Which, again, these are all stories. Right? And I thought at the time I didn't have any lore. I was just very boring. I had to be more interesting. And all that just led to a meltdown, basically. And it got pretty bad. I could have went to the mental hospital over some things, but I kept it together okay. And okay, excuse me. But where was I? Just these things I repress in my head so much that, you know, it's so hard to talk about sometimes. Oh yeah, it got to a bad meltdown. It got to like a really bad meltdown, and I just I just stayed at home for the better part of that year until I moved pretty recently. Wait, no, for the better part of 24 and the last few months of 25, or the beginning first 4-5 months of 25. So basically from October 24 all the way to who am I kidding? All the way to actually August of 25. So almost been a year, almost. Crazy. But like, yeah, no. I went to a meltdown because of all these expectations and whatnots. And next thing I know, I was just playing video games all day. And I was just very jumbled up as to why I became like a failure at that stage of my life. Right? Like, I obviously built myself up after having some really bad traumatic experiences. So in a sense, I'm not like a total failure, but you know, like when I looked at myself, even now, but that was especially true at the time. I was skinny, I was like irrational, I was unpopular, I was broke, I was like low key a cuck to a lot of stuff. And yeah, I guess all in all, I just had like a really negative self-image that made me think that I was a failure. Um, but separating that from who I actually am, you know, in terms of taking care of myself right after I had that meltdown, I'm not a failure. And it's still really hard for me to talk about because, I mean, like, all right, I've been building Roblox games, like showcases, for the past month and a half. I'm making good progress, like really good progress. Just like, how can I bend these free models without making one of those like sloppy brain fart games that kind of like make your kids dumber. I don't want to use other word, but yeah, I did a pretty good job on that. And yeah, like these past few months, ever since I had gotten better from that realization that all my failure came from what I think is my failure. Ever since that realization, I became lighter. Like it just became easier to deal with some stuff. Obviously, it's weird. This is the first video that I'm just talking about this openly. Like, yeah, like the final point is just not taking care of myself, always listening to other people's opinion, always staying in a bubble. Obviously, I can elaborate more on that, but like I want to end the video and just upload it, and hopefully people will see this and neither relate to me or not, or listen to me or not. That's a more important part. So the main point is I am a failure to launch right now at 21 years old because I always listen to other people. And this will be the beginning of the video too. I'll cut this part to just include it in the beginning of the video, but you know, listening to people, it's not always a good thing. People have some stuff not because they really deserve it. The game of life is pretty weird, really weird. So listen to yourself.